Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Friday's episode of Trending. We've made it. We've made it to the end of the week. What a day to be alive. If flu doesn't kill you, then Russia might, and World Cup tickets are $3,000 at least if you want to go to the final. Might as well just give up, right? Right, we're going to start today's episode by talking about super flu. The super flu surge is apparently a challenge for the NHS, unlike any since the plandemic. Not pandemic, just going to alter the story slightly. That's according to Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary wannabe Prime Minister. The number of patients in hospital apparently has risen by more than 50% in the past week. And apparently there's still no sign of super flu peaking yet. Now, flu apparently disappeared, as we all remember, in 2020 and 2021. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? That it completely disappeared just in the middle of something that apparently was new. Yeah, every single year I can remember before the COVID era, and I can remember since, apart from those 2 or 3 years. Every single year these headlines come. Flu outbreak, the world's going to end, schools are going to close, everyone should wear masks, you shouldn't leave your house. And every year, most people just get on with their lives. However, since COVID and since the psychological game and psychological destruction of so many people, particularly elderly, through that period, people's reaction to stories like this have probably changed somewhat. You know, when I was a kid and growing up, it was just flu was flu. No one was scared of the flu, really. You know, if you were vulnerable, if you were elderly, if you had underlying health conditions, I understand the flu can be not a particularly nice thing. However, for the vast majority of people, flu is something you get, feel a bit crap for a few days, and then you get on. Like, you know, it's almost seen as a detox, how I would see it anyway. It's your body getting rid of a load of rubbish that it doesn't want. And, you know, this is, again, why quite commonly people get sick, people get ill over Christmas when they take a breath. Because our bodies are so clever, they're so intelligent. And when we're busy, when we're, you know, trying to get through things, they can hold things off. And then when you relax, when you take that breath, when you take that bit of relaxation, your body can go, right, all this stuff I need to get out, all this detoxing, right, here it comes now. That's why people get coughs, they get sniffles, they get flu, they get sick. You know, this is verifiable. You know, if you look at a lot of alternative and even mainstream health, they'll acknowledge that, you know, when you take a breath, when you relax, that's when your body tends to go, right, here you go then. And you know, it's a bit crap because you might want to have a little chill over Christmas and sometimes you don't feel great, but that's why that happens. So you've got that. You've also got the change of temperature, which is another major reason why people get more ill through the winter. It's dark, it's grim. You know, I'm sat here now at 7 a.m. recording this and it's pitch black outside. It's damp. It's just not very nice. And you have months and months of that. You have less vitamin D, obviously, coming into your skin because most people, especially if you're working a 9 to 5 and 8 to 4, you're spending so much of your day inside, obviously, as you do, but then you're spending so little of your time outside in sunshine, whereas in the summer, you know, you get home from work at 6 o'clock, you've still got at least a couple of hours of sunshine that that vitamin D can get into your skin. You might get those sunshine before work if you're going for a walk, if you've got a dog or whatever you're doing, then you're going to get more sun, which is going to help with your health. So there's that. And also there is obviously flu going around. I'm not going to get into the whole terrain argument because I think that's a conversation for another day and a really in-depth conversation to have. But what we're sold is obviously during the winter months, these bugs and things seem to go around the schools, the nurseries, hospitals, workplaces, and at home, which is what causes this. But like I said, every year this has been the case, apart from 2020 and 2021. But since then, has people's attitudes towards it changed? Because before then, most people would have just got on with their lives. Yeah, a bit crap. I've got the flu. I've got man flu. I've got whatever. I'm going to get some Lemsip. I'm going to get some lemon and tea and I'm just going to get on with my life. Take a couple of days off and get on. Whereas, has that changed now? I would suggest it has. Because people have been conditioned. People have been manipulated into a situation of such fear, of such anxiety, that now the tiniest little thing will set them off. There's been people still wearing masks in public places, in cafes, on trains, on buses, on aeroplanes, right for the last 5 years when nothing's going on and you're not really being even told that too much is going on. So now all of a sudden you are being told what's going on again and you're being sold this propaganda. What's that going to look like? You know, I'm going to make a point of going into the city in a minute. I try and avoid it like the plague, but I'm going to make a point of going into the city this morning to have a look in the shops and see what people are doing. Because it would not shock me if more and more people are putting those masks back on again, not because there's mask mandates, but because they've been terrified into it. They've been terrified into believing that every time they leave their house, when they go and do that Christmas shopping that they might have been looking forward to, someone else sat on the other side, walking down the other side of the aisle, poses a threat to their life. That's what people are being hoodwinked into believing. And for me, it's terrifying. For me, it's really sad as well, because this time of year means so much to so many people. No matter what's going on in your lives, most people, especially if you've got young families, especially if you're elderly and you've got grandkids, people look forward to this time of year. They look forward to the holidays. They look forward to kids opening presents. They look forward to singing Christmas carols, to Santa coming round to say hello. You know, all of those things that kids and adults and elderly look forward to. We're being conditioned, or people are being conditioned to fear other people at a time when, you know, that whole biblical prophecy thing of love thy neighbor, that thing is so prevalent at this time of year. Because if you're on your own, if you're lonely at this time of year, you feel it probably more so than ever before. You know, that you're shut inside your house, you know, there's so much family stuff going on. If you don't have that, then you're going to feel more isolated than ever before. That's why the church at this time of year, for me, is fundamentally important for the elderly and people that are on their own. You've got the food kitchens, you've got the communal community groups. You've got things like that are so important. And my question or fear is that those sort of things are going to not happen this year, certainly not happen in enough numbers, because people are, one, either going to be scared to go and join them because of things like this, or secondly, they're going to be cancelled completely because of the propaganda that we're seeing come out. It's really sad. It's really sad. I'm actually past the point of anger now, and I just find it very sad. Anyone that I see now wearing a mask, especially if they're elderly, I look at with a real sadness that they must be so terrified because they have been propagandized so much to believe that the tiniest little thing is gonna kill them and be a danger to them, that other people are a danger to them. And that's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying that we've allowed that to happen. And it's very important that if you're listening to this and you don't know what to think about this, then just look around you. Look back through your life and remember, every year this happened. It happened last year. You know, I interviewed a fantastic lady called Jane Donegan. Used to be Dr. Jane Donegan, but she was stripped by the GNC for speaking out against vaccinations. And she was, when I went to interview her at her home in London, this was in the middle of the first lockdown actually, and she was talking to me about when she was a doctor. You had for 1 year, I think it was 2009, if I remember rightly, you had ambulances coming as north as Derby, where we are now, from London, which is, you know, a good couple of hours drive, to find hospital beds for flu patients. That's how extreme that period was. I don't remember this level of propaganda. I don't remember masks. I don't remember in school, 2009, I'd have been 16. I don't remember anyone talking about it. Yet now they're talking about schools closing. They're talking about exams being cancelled. They're talking about masks everywhere. They're talking about cancelling hospital appointments. They're talking about all these things. They're talking about isolation that are going to terrify people. Why? Because it's not really about the flu. The flu is just the vehicle they need to get the outcome they want. And the outcome they want is fear, anxiety, depression, anxiousness. They want all these emotions because all these emotions are low vibrational energies. And that's what, if you want to go deep, that's what this system feeds off. It feeds off the deprivation of humanity. That's why, well, no matter where you look in the world, no matter what news website you go on, all you're going to see, or the vast majority of what you're going to see, is stories that are there to make you go, really, again? Oh, isn't that devastating? Oh, shit, what's going to happen now? It's leaving people like that. Whether you're talking about geopolitical events, whether you're talking about budgets, whether you're talking about health crisis, whether you're talking about international conflicts, whatever it is, the outcome they want is the same, which is human beings on their knees, terrified. Now, one of the beauties of knowing that that's the outcome they want is you can do that to it. You can say, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not falling for it because I see through your BS now. Because they're very predictable, this system. I could have told you 3 months ago that this story was going to come up, and I can tell you for the next few weeks it's going to continue to come up. Because it's predictable. Rinse and repeat. If it worked the first time and there's no pushback, do it again. That's all they do. They're very good. They're very organised. They're very well drilled. But they're not imaginative. They're very predictable. And once you figure out their plays, once you figure out their tactics, it's so easy to see through and circumvent. If they want this outcome, do that. Funnily enough, through all these health stories I've ever read, I've never seen one where it's talking about eating better. It's talking about not drinking. It's talking about having good quality foods. It's talking about eating organically. It's talking about getting exercise. It's talking about having positive relationships. It's talking about getting fresh air. No. Go and get your flu jab, ladies and gentlemen. That's the only way to do this. I'm sat here and I'll look a total prat in a few weeks as when I get flu, but I'm sat here as a 33-year-old man who's never had flu, never had a flu vaccine. In fact, never had a vaccine of anything. Thanks, Mum and Dad. And I'm sat here having never been seriously ill, very rarely get poorly. Ironic, given I was poorly on Monday, but that was just literally a 24-hour sickness bug. And as soon as I was up, I was done and I was fine. And, you know, you get on with life. You take a day here, and you get on with your life. You don't live in a state of constant fear. You know, when my kids come home from school and there's a sickness bug going through the school or whatever, you don't sit there panicked in the evening, desperately cleaning everything. You just go, okay. Both my boys had whooping cough a couple of years ago. They were ill for a bit, about 6-7 weeks. All in from start to finish. And since then, they've not been ill once, really. Apart from, again, like, you know, a 24-hour sickness bug or something. They've not been ill because they've got strong immune systems. And also, we just get on with life. They eat well. They drink well. They get plenty of exercise. We get outside as much as we can. You know, you never see health professionals or health advisors advising you to do things that are for the betterment of your health, unless it gives the system money. All those things I've just described don't earn the drug companies any money. They don't earn the NHS any money. They also don't cost the taxpayer any money, which is surely what you would be trying to encourage if you were the health secretary of a system and a country that's bankrupt. But we know that's not what's meant to happen, don't we? Right, if you're watching with us on YouTube or Twitter, thank you. I'm going to talk about the news stories over the last 24 hours that are all trying to terrify everybody into the submission, believing World War III is imminent. Another example of trying to get people on their knees in terror. We're going to talk about Erika Kirk and how she doesn't seem to be backing down despite more and more people questioning her actions. And we're going to finish on a good news story this week, one that hopefully will give you a bit of encouragement that the world's not all bad. I'll see you over there on Iconic.